al acompañamiento con nosotros todos los días. Y gran niño, ¿no? Que yo aquí en la clase te lo veo.
Y mañana tiros largos, hay que preparárselo bien. Y nada, atentos a mañana por tiros, como ver el multicharting, así que aprovechamos. Es un momento espectacular de las profesiones, aparte de las teorías que van a explicar para todo lo que es hablar sobre las estrategias y demás, en el descuentito.
Y allí entra el Discord, poner el rol y va ya a abrirse la puerta.
A ver qué es lo que nos depara por aquí.
La intriga.
Buena pinta.
Sí, no, es verdad, ¿eh? Yo mantenemos
Really
la
focused on
economía se
achieving
mantiene
our
en
dual
general fuerte
mandate
y hemos
goals
hecho un
have
progreso
been
más
strong
ajustado
overall and has made significant overheated
nuestra
as of
economía y
September
alcanzar nuestros objetivos.
into our
Avanzar en
2%
reducir los
goal.
tipos de interés.
Reducing the degree of
Continuamos
inflation moving sustainably down to more to
actividad
say
económica
about market economic
ha
activity
subido
has
además de forma
continued
significativa.
in the third quarter.
Del consumo, o sea,
Investment
inmobiliario, el
in
sector
equipment and
de la,
intangible
el
overall,
mercado
improving supply
laboral,
conditions, labor market
ligeramente
conditions remain solid
el-
over the past 3 months.
Florida, permíteme
Regarding the hurricanes,
dar
let me
mis
extend
condolencias
our
y
sympathies. The unemployment rate in
conocido de
October,
la desaceleración de la presión inflacionaria,
overall, a broad set of indicators,
producido de forma significativa
the
en
labor
los
market
últimos
is
2
not a
años.
source of significant inflationary pressures.
La inflación
1%
subyacente,
over the
sin
12
contar
months ending
alimentos,
at
del 2%, si bien es cierto
2.7%,
que la inflación subyacente
and remains somewhat elevated.
ya,
Surveys of households,
seguían
businesses,
a
and
través de
forecasters'
nuestra
policy
tarea de
actions are
precios.
guided by our to achieving our employment and inflation.
tipo de interés,
At today's meeting, the committee decided to lower the target range of
economía
our
y
policy
alcanzar,
stance
cuidado
as we move
evidentemente
toward
porque
a
una
more
reducción por
hinder
el lado del
progress on
pleno empleo
inflation
o por alcanzar. Por supuesto tenemos que balancear
and
estos elementos.
considering outlook and the balance of risks.
Se va a seguir ajustando, se
Slowly.
debilita un poco o la inflación sigue comprometida en fomentar,
committed to
además, no solo
supporting
alcanzar
maximum
objetivos por
impact.
decisiones
Our
afectan a las
success in
familias.
delivering families and businesses everything we can.
Empezando con las elecciones. ¿Cómo la Fed valora el impacto?
Proposals into account for upcoming decisions. Fed is prepared to
En el corto plazo,
to
dice
changes in
Powell,
economic
las elecciones
policies
no
with
van
the
a
next
tener ningún
administration.
efecto en nuestra política
Sure. So
monetaria.
many things affect the economy and anyone in the very
Se
near
van a
term.
desarrollar esas nuevas políticas
So in
que
the
no
economy
afectan
would
los
be
objetivos que
specifically,
nosotros
we don't any
tipo de política
administration's
que haga el
policies
gobierno
or our
y
pursuit of
habrá
our
que
dual
ir tomando
mandate
en cuenta
goals
eso,
are
pregunten
models of the
mucho más
economy
sobre
and will be
esto.
taken into account through that channel.
Fuerte Joner, vamos a ver.
Chair Powell, Nick Timros from the Wall Street. Mortgage rates were near 8%. You noted how higher borrowing policy is restrictive and the Fed is now dialing back that restriction. Are the growth risks presented by higher inflation was still meaningfully above your target?
It's nowhere near where it was, of course, a year ago. I guess the
está
the
bastante en
long run
orden.
rates are well below that level. Ultimately, our
de tomar
specific
las decisiones que
decomposition
tiene, por supuesto que las
about
condiciones
a
financieras
sense
se
of
toman en consideración de que
have mainly to do with Fed policy, but to do with other factors in the economy.
If I could follow.
preguntando por Trump. Empezamos
You
fuerte
know,
con la otra
it's-
pregunta, pero
you get halfway through the cycle between meetings. So,
nos demuestran
in the
que
main,
la
the
economía
economic,
sí ha sido
September employment
relativamente-
reports
son ahora quizás
of
menos
some of the
relevantes que
downside
antes.
risks to
Hay
economic
menos
activity
preocupación en la Fed,
having
relación
been
con el desarrollo de la
diminished
economía de lo que podía
with the
haber
NIPA
antes.
revisions in particular.
Mensaje
We got one inflation. Really, the question is December reports and lots of other data, and we'll make a decision as we get to December.
Cuando lleguemos a diciembre,
As you try to make that decision, and then as of 2025, give a little bit of detail as to why.
Exactly
Bueno,
where
como es
the
habitual,
committee
esta
is.
pregunta,
Outlook on 75
navegando
basis points,
a través de
moving
se
too
nos pueda,
quickly,
perjudicar
and
demasiado.
that's
Sobre
where
lo
we
que va a ser
are.
en diciembre
But
y
that's thinking because we don't fill out an SEP at this meeting.
Outlook.
interés en total va a haber
Again,
en
I'm
el
going to wait. We're going to
2025.
wait and see how
Dice Powell
things
que no sigue.
neutral stance.
por supuesto,
And
siguiente
we're just going to have to. Obviously, I'm not ruling it out. Or again, we didn't update the SEP, so I'm not going to characterize where the committee would be.
Thanks, Howard Schneider with Reuters. I wondered if you could please, inflation
Cambios
has
de
made
palabras.
progress,
Y
dropping the
voy a
word
decir una
further,
cosa,
plus that inflation was
ha
progressing.
estado-
Language,
¿por
is
qué
it
será que
meant to
la Fed
open the door
igual
to a
está cambiando
December
un poco su
pause?
Let me tell you,
justificar lo que ya todos saben
was
que
was our test
hemos hecho pues, se
test in
justifica
September.
en este
And what do you mean by it?
comentábamos
Are
antes
you
de-
confident?
dice Powell que está
It's
pensando,
not
no
meant,
estamos
we
aquí
don't want to be. We
lanzando
don't
ningún
think it's a
mensaje
good time to be
encubierto.
doing a lot of
Por tanto,
where
no
the
podemos
destination. The point is to
supuesto no me quiero
find that.
comprometer o nadie se
To
quiere
find that, and you don't want to tie yourself.
Steve Leisman, CNBC. Mr. Chairman, you talked about higher
como
rise
el
in
déficit
interest
va a
rates, and
bajar,
is
que es
that
igual la Fed
are
eso
rising
lo va a
deficits a
tener en cuenta
concern
al
to you?
tomar decisiones de tipos de interés.
So we don't comment on fiscal policy, and again, I don't have a lot.
Va
Let me give you a sense
cambiar la
of how this
política,
doesn't
hay que
matter what's
esperar
in the
evidentemente a que el
content. So
Congreso
wait and we'd wait, and then it's effects
probable
of tax
de que
policy
la
changes
política fiscal
on
del
various
gobierno de
parts of the
Estados
economy.
Unidos, bueno,
So we
bueno,
actually
pues,
passes, it
una
goes
vez que
in
lo
at
varie
a
para
given
ajustar la
time.
política monetaria.
Clearly, the legislative process that
Esa
are happening,
política
what's the
fiscal
net
va
effect?
va a afectar.
And that we go through all the time with or
Es muy
there's nothing
temprano, no
there's
sabemos
nothing to model
todavía
right
qué
now,
puede entrar
a
en
sense
vigor
of
esas leyes.
all that will take time, and it will be very much regular order when we do that.
If I could just follow up on Nick's question, are the current
El periodista
conditions of the
básicamente
economy,
que
or do
si
you
la
just take them
el
as a
cambio de
given
la
and perhaps
política
Be sustained. If you remember the 5% matter, and we don't know that about these,
no,
but right now it's not a major factor in how we're thinking about things.
Chris.
You mentioned the positive economic.
Dice el
We
periodista
saw
que para
stock
qué
market
tenemos
jump
estas cosas que
yesterday
la bolsa ha
with this
subido.
backdrop.
So you're right.
Dice Powell,
as
vamos a
I
ver,
mentioned, as you
mi
mentioned, the latest
mandato es
economic
allá de lo que haga o
stability,
deje de hacer el
and we
mercado
think
es más
that
allá
even
de lo
with
que
the
vamos, que el periodista está insinuando que si las cosas van
years ago, and is now further cooling, we don't think to achieve its highs of 2 years. But if you look at those two things, we judge his decision is really we can maintain strength in the labor.
Great. And just to follow up, what might cause you to pause rate cuts in December? What kind of economic data would lead you to that?
That at all, but we're in the process. As we move ahead, we are prepared to adjust. If we were to see the labor neutral or close to neutral, we made any decisions about that, but it run off with QT. So
Edward.
Fox News pregunta.
There's noise in the jobs reports that we use 2.7%, and it's been that way since July this meeting.
You're quoting the 12-month. So we look at all of them, right? But if you look at 3 and 6 month, what it's telling us is that that's why forecasts generally see a couple of residual seasonality, where we should see it thing down. So it'll literally be a bump up and then down. We understand that. Overall, one is the
De hecho, que la inflación que tiene que ver
to be in the early
está
2000s
generando
for period. Housing services
lo
is
que
higher.
está-
What's happening is older, market rent leases are, so higher pressure. So where's it coming from? It's not
La
several other
inflación
areas.
que
So
se
you're
está
seeing
teniendo en estos últimos
10-year to
interés
come
y-
down on a
y
bump, do
contento, claro,
really good.
You're quickly
Nothing
situación en la
in
cual vale la
the
pena,
economic data suggests net carefully, but we do see neutral, if you will, is careful.
Para seguir
The economy
navegando
remains
entre esos
strong.
dos
We have the
riesgos de
ability
baja
risks.
Today, did
Y
you
sobre la
learn
percepción que
anything
tiene-
about what? I'm going to talk about some labor market indicators side of the man, about a half a
Intentando llegar al
point from a
punto
year
de
ago,
que-
and heading down to that bad neighborhood of the cooling is unwelcome as a shortfall from maximum employment. Thank you.
Sure. This is
A ver, nada, ya está.
moved up significantly.
El
And
mercado laboral
bad
en general
things,
se ha
so
estabilizado
far,
porque
we
ahora
think
está
it's
diciendo que no.
continuing to very gradually cool, place to maintain the strength in the
La cara
labor
del
market
periodista.
of indicators, and you're right.
Dice Powell que,
the-
bueno,
the-
en lo que se
the
refiere al sector laboral, bueno,
openings
podríamos
to
categorizarlo de otra forma.
unemployment
Podríamos
rates are still running inflation
desempleo y la
and less
población que tiene
productivity,
labor.
then that
Pero
would
Powell
sustain
está aquí
higher wage gains. So I would say, in fact, you
intentando
could say it the other way.
hacernos olvidar de lo
Of course, the lore on productivity, longer-term trend, that is
sobre
something that
eso,
came
pero
out
bueno, lo
a
está
month ago.
diciendo.
We're 5 years into it, but overall it's
mismo para decir, por favor que no empeore,
inflation, back to 2%.
porque tiene que no han dicho nadie que me tenga que largar.
Can you follow up?
A ver, le han dicho que se largue, nadie.
Are telling you and how you, what are you hearing from what companies and consumers think about where the economy is going from here rather than looking backwards? And does that match up with what your forecasts have been and what you think the appropriate policy path should be?
In 3 weeks, but I would from the back to normal to the point where they feel like the labor markets in BC, you're seeing 2.8% growth in the strong economy. It's actually coming down what I hear, what others summarize areas of caution and
The areas of caution, if there were black clouds on the horizon that you identified as something you're watching, what would they
Dice
be?
Powell, temas a vigilar, bueno,
it's
el
things
riesgo
like
geopolítico.
had relatively little effect on the U.S.
Lo pusieron
economy.
contra la pared
Now,
y
that can change
por responder bien.
through the price of oil or otherwise, but people talk
Sí,
about
sí, yo
those
creo
as
que
its
más
performance
allá de
has
los
been
riesgos
very
geopolíticos, la
good.
cosa va
I
muy
feel
rascado.
Andrew.
On the discussion
Volvamos
earlier
otra vez a su
on
predecesor en cargo de la Fed, fue muy
economic
vocal.
governance, we have large budget deficits and something you'd speak out against.
So, you
Dice
mentioned
Powell
that
que el
fiscal
fiscal
policy
se
is on an
encuentra
unsustainable
desde
path. See that, and you've got a very, it's
lejos
important that we,
la economía en
you know,
recesión. Esto no es un tema ni
policy.
siquiera político,
I've said it
eso
on many
tiene
occasions,
todo el
just
mundo
said it
clarísimo.
again.
Demócratas y republicanos.
Okay, thank you.
El déficit
I guess promote you, and has the Fed determined the legality of a president
demoting at will any of the other governors with leadership positions.
Not permitted.
Time to give forward guidance because of the
Y si se está
was
refiriendo de
not
lo que
referring to
nadie ha hablado,
the,
ni siquiera ha dicho ni Trump ni presidente
administration's
electo.
head. We
Yo,
know
más bien,
economy,
estamos haciendo
and we
las
think our
cosas muy bien.
policy, or
No
you
tengo que
say
hablar de
what are the
milagros.
risks, and we lost our chance to get inflation back to 2%. So we have to avoid that risk, and to avoid that risk, that means you're damage to the labor market and to people's working lives. The two risks that we have to manage: support the strength we have in the labor market and in the economy, but also with somewhat less restrictive but still restrictive policy. We're going to be making our assessment of what the right path is. It's not as important. The precise timing of these things is not as important as the overall arc. We don't know exactly where that is. We don't know if price works. We're pretty sure it's below where we are so that we can increase the chances that we will get it right.
Simon.
Thank you, Chair Powell. Simon Urbanovich with the Economist
Los bonos, dice el
expectations do seem to
periodista,
have risen
podríamos deducir
in
semejantes
September,
niveles más.
or put another way, are anchoring at a slightly higher level.
Dice Powell que estaríamos preocupados si viésemos que las expectativas de inflación efectivamente han subido.
Longer-term inflation expectations anchored. I looked at the five-year, consistent with 2% PCE, to be, and the inflation, we will not allow inflation. 2022 was to avoid that.
from business leaders on the economy.
Es
What's
una
your
mejora de la
message to
situación
them
económica y que
on
cuándo
when
van a
they might
sentir eso
expect
los
relief?
estadounidenses en sus bolsillos.
So, you're right.
Dice Powell que está de acuerdo.
And we went through the days with you because the price, and that's what we're trying to create. And so it's just, I think what needs to, those feelings are true, they're accurate. We don't question them.
Donald Trump ha sido muy crítico con usted. ¿Alguna preocupación? Nada. Le distrajo primero. Lo que le ha dicho. O sea, Trump.
It's of course a very difficult thing because you're. I would just say that we've been to inflation. So, knock on wood, we've gotten this far to keep the inflation task, but down towards neutral with the economy. September S&P for the foreseeable future, full year in advance.
Chair Powell, Jean Young with MNI Market News. The past few years, even though now inflation on its inflation goal under the average inflation targeting regime, so people have a chance to catch up.
We did not think it would be appropriate to deliberately undershoot and part of our framework, and it's not something we're going to be looking at in our framework review.
Madre mía, yo creo que